So have you ever stopped and wondered what really makes a company a true juggernaut? I'm not just talking about being big. I mean, what makes them so durable, so indispensable, that it feels like we can't live without them? Well, the answer is way more interesting than you might think.
Right? What is that secret sauce? What separates a company that's just having a good run from one that becomes a permanent pillar of the entire global economy?
You know, it's easy to just point at a famous logo or a mind-boggling profit number and say, yep, that's it. But honestly, those are just the symptoms. They're not the root cause. The real story, the real magic, goes so much deeper. And here it is. The core idea is this. The most powerful, most enduring companies aren't just selling us stuff anymore. They have literally become the fundamental infrastructure that we rely on to work, to shop, to connect, basically to live our lives. They are, for all intents and purposes, the new utilities. Okay, so let's dive into our first pillar, the new digital utilities. These are the companies that have built the very foundation of our digital world. And that quote really nails it. We're not just talking about selling software anymore. We're talking about being the platform that powers absolutely everything else. And that, right there, is the playbook for this whole group. I mean, just look at Amazon. It's like this two-headed monster, in the best possible way. On one side, you've got the engine of commerce we all know, where retail margins are soaring. But then, on the other side, there's its cloud service, AWS. That is the actual backbone of the internet, and its growth is taking off again, all thanks to the massive demand for AI. And then you have Microsoft, which is, without a doubt, the backbone of the entire corporate world. Its cloud platform, Azure, is seeing explosive growth because every company out there is scrambling to use AI. And Microsoft is brilliantly cashing in with products like Copilot, which drives up that sweet, recurring subscription revenue and locks businesses even deeper into their world. Now, for the consumer world, you've kind of got two sides of the same coin. Over here, you've got Apple, who are the absolute masters of hardware and services lock-in. They have over 2 billion, with a B, devices out there, creating this incredible high-margin services machine. And then you've got Google, whose empire is built on data and ads. Billions of us use Search, Android, and YouTube every single day, which basically makes them the essential infrastructure for almost all digital advertising. All right, let's move on to our second pillar, the engines of global consumption. These are the giants that shape what we buy, where we go, and how we spend our time and money. This is the key. We're talking about companies that are so woven into the fabric of daily life, into the very flow of commerce, that they've become the backbone of how the entire world consumes things. And it all comes down to one thing: scale. Just look at this number for Walmart: 270 million customers. Not a year, not a month, every single week. That kind of insane reach gives it a power that is almost impossible to compete with. At that size, you're not just a player in the market anymore, you are the market. Now, Costco has this fascinatingly different but equally powerful model. Get this, its main profit doesn't even come from selling you that giant tub of mayonnaise. It comes from the high-margin membership fees you pay every year. And with a renewal rate of around 90%, they have this incredibly stable, predictable river of cash that makes them super resilient, whether the economy is good or bad. And you see that same principle of scale in the digital world too. Netflix completely dominates our streaming habits with over 270 million members, all hooked in by this powerful AI personalization engine. And Booking.com does the same thing for travel. It has 28 million listings, which creates this massive network effect. See, the more hotels it has, the more travelers use it, which, you guessed it, attracts even more hotels. It's a virtuous cycle. American Express runs on a totally different kind of ecosystem, what you could call a premium payments flywheel. It's really elegant. First, they attract high-spending customers. Then, and this is the genius part, because they operate what's called a closed-loop network, they see both sides of every single transaction. That gives them incredible data to manage risk and target offers, and all of that lets them build this super stable, growing stream of revenue from annual fees. It's just a beautiful system. Okay, so we've covered the digital world and the consumer world. Now it's time for our third and final pillar, the world's physical backbone. These are the titans that literally build, move, and heal our physical world. I love this quote because it really gets at how critical these companies are, even when they're invisible to most of us. They are the unseen but absolutely essential foundation that modern life is built on. And the dominance here is just staggering. Taiwan Semiconductor, or TSMC, makes over 90% of the world's most advanced computer chips. The phone in your pocket, the car you drive, the massive data centers running all this new AI, it all runs on silicon made by this one company. That arguably makes them one of the most important companies on the entire planet.
In the world of aerospace, you see these different but equally unbreakable business models. GE Aerospace will sell you a brand new jet engine, often for a pretty low profit. Why? Because that locks the airline into decades of high-margin service agreements. It's the classic razor and blades model. Then you've got HEICO, which makes FAA-approved replacement parts that save airlines money. And Transdigm? They just specialize in proprietary parts where they are often the only supplier. That's a powerful, powerful monopoly.
And believe it or not, this same infrastructure logic applies to healthcare. Intuitive Surgical absolutely dominates robotic surgery. But the real money isn't just selling the giant robot. It's the recurring revenue from all the disposable instruments and services used in every single procedure. And then there's Eli Lilly, which is at the forefront of this once-in-a-generation shift with its GLP-1 drugs for diabetes and obesity, a market that has decades of massive demand ahead of it.
So when you pull it all together, what's the common blueprint here? What connects all these digital, consumer, and physical giants? Well, it really boils down to a few key things.
The first thread, and it's an obvious one, but it's so important, is just massive, almost unbeatable scale. Whether we're talking about Walmart's 270 million weekly shoppers or Google's billions of daily users, that sheer size creates this huge competitive moat that's basically impossible for anyone else to cross. The second big theme is this strategic shift towards predictable, high-margin recurring revenue. Think about it. Costco's memberships, Microsoft's software subscriptions, GE's jet engine service contracts. This creates this incredibly stable financial foundation that doesn't depend on just making a one-time sale. And that brings us to the final, and really the most important idea. These juggernauts don't just participate in a market, they become the market's essential infrastructure. They are the platforms, they are the backbones, they are the utilities that all the other businesses and, frankly, our daily lives now completely depend on.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. We've seen how digital, consumer, and physical infrastructure have defined the giants of today. But as these huge new waves like AI and the green energy transition create totally new demands on the world, who's going to build the next essential pillar of our global economy? What's that infrastructure even going to look like? It's a pretty fascinating question to chew on.